Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. This is the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have a very special guest today, plural. We have Kate Hancock and Daniel Robbins, husband and wife. They are the leaders of one of the most successful entrepreneur club on a new platform called Clubhouse. And I'm a member of that club. And I've watched them build this club to an amazing 50,000 plus followers. They're also highly successful entrepreneurs. And I think we're going to learn a lot from them today. So let's welcome Kate and Dan. Welcome, Kate and Dan. How are you?
We're honored to be here. I'm honored to be here, Dr. Finance.
Honored. Thank you, Dr. Finance.
Thank you, guys. And this is my first time doing this podcast with three people. So it's an experiment. I believe it'll be great, though. So let's get into it. So Kate and Dan, let's start with Kate first. And your story is merged. I usually ask people to tell me about their story. So obviously, husband and wife, your story's merged. But let's start with Kate first, and then Dan for order. Tell us a little about yourself. What is your origin story?
Yes, so Dr. Finance and everyone, I actually grew up in the Philippines, in a small island south of Manila, with not having much. And I actually started working as early as 10 years old. I get involved in a family business, as a pastry family business, which my grandmother owned this secret recipe. So we're all in there waking up 4 a.m. and we're so resourceful. We use a clay oven, coconut husk as a firewood. We can't afford propane gas at that time. So Wednesday we collect out there, dry that coconut husk and make it as a firewood. So I was really working really hard, and I really don't have that much of a fun times because I have to work. And that really my driving force. I just want to have freedom. I want to have a freedom of be able to play with my friends or read some books or just be a teenager. I didn't have that much. So I think at that moment, I just wanted to live a life where I have freedom and I can do things, not because I don't have a choice. So that was me. And I moved out in the United States right after college. I was working several jobs, actually working 3 or 4 different jobs, and I would change uniform in a parking lot. Actually, I have so many jobs, Dr. Finance. I was doing wine sampling. I was a makeup artist. I was handing food sample at Costco, Walmart, and Target. You know, this promo models, promo workers that hand out flyers. Eventually I landed in a skincare job and I moved up pretty fast, and I opened an Amazon one day. I mean, literally, it was by chance. I was in Austin, Texas. It was a dead Tuesday morning. There's no customer at that time. I was doing a road show at Costco, and I started scanning stuff online, sell of health and beauty clearance items. It was I started with $20 and I scale it to $1 million after a year, and I sold 8-figure after 4 years.
Wow.
So, and I was able to open other businesses like an award-winning facial center here in California. We're able to open a hotel brand in the Philippines called Bintana at So other investment, we have some Airbnbs across, globally, and other things. And I helped Dan with his PR company. So we do a lot of things. It's kind of dynamic of him and I. Trust me, it's not perfect, but it's very interesting.
So Kate, just want to step back to the Philippines because you have a very interesting background. I traveled the world at 19. I came out of what I thought was poverty in the United States, in a rundown neighborhood in South Philadelphia, the poorest, largest city in America. And then I traveled. I was fortunate enough to get on a program called Semester at Sea, and we went to all different, underdeveloped countries throughout the world, and saw a lot of poverty. And you grew up, it sounds like, in a very poor area of the Philippines, right?
Yeah. Well, really not much. I remember my grandmother owns a TV in the whole neighborhood. But yes, we were we didn't have we have enough to eat, but we don't have extra stuff for it's not like we have money. enough for us to get to day by day. And yeah, I grew up in a lot of our neighbors, they don't even have a door in their house.
So
That's
would
the
you say
kind
the
of,
poverty in the Philippines compared to the poverty in the United States, and other parts of the world, would you say that poverty, it's like apples and oranges? It's a completely different level of poverty.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have no idea. Some people don't even have, like I said, a wall. Or we used to have people that lives nearby in our property, and I was like, how do these five people live in that shack with no walls? And we actually helped them l- build their own bathroom. They don't even have a bathroom, so you'll see it. It's visible everywhere. So we tried to help as much as we can. The good thing is, I grew up in, we're not rich. It's just like we just have a house and we can eat. I mean, 3 times a day, and I think you're good. Like that's pretty good life.
And that's the reason I want to focus on that, Kate, is because not only did you become an extremely successful entrepreneur in American terms, but I wanted to step back for the audience and show them that you're truly spectacular, because the chances of coming out of extreme poverty in places like where you grew up, just to be an American citizen, let alone is an extreme goal for many, let alone to take it to the next level where you're actually you've exceeded the American expectation of an average American being a wealth goal, where you're a successful entrepreneur here as well. So that's like double power to your success. And I just wanted to highlight that. I commend you on such a fantastic journey, and meeting your goals. I mean, and I know you got a lot more goals too, but that's just it's fantastic. So
Thank
thank
you.
you, Kate. And Dan. So Dan, welcome, Dan. You want to tell us a little about your story?
Yeah. So, and I gotta say, the family that Kate is talking about, where we built the bathroom, that was a big turning point for me. I can explain that later. But seeing that, like you said, I've never seen a family of five that don't even have walls, right? It's just a structure that they live in. I'm like, where do you sleep? They don't have beds, no bathroom, no roof. It's incredible. But yeah, so for me, I grew up in a smaller town in Connecticut, and hated it. It was not for me. I wanted to live in a city. I wanted, probably like Kate, I think that's why we have a lot in common, where she always knew she wanted more. So I was failing college, dropped out of college because it was bad, right? I knew this was just not my life. I was 20 years old, and a friend of mine said, hey, uh, let's move to Florida and start a business. And me, it takes me a lot of time to make decisions because I'm always overthinking. So I spent weeks overthinking. I was miserable in life because I had just dropped out of college, and I was fearful that I had to move back in with my mom for a few weeks, which was like a nightmare for me. Moving back in with your parents, like something I never wanted to do. So he called me one day and said, hey, if you don't come by tomorrow, then don't come at all. So I had $300 in my bank account. I took that $300. I bought a one-way plane ticket thinking I'm going to fly back to Connecticut later on. I just wanted to try something new. So I went to Florida, but when I got there, I told myself I will not move back to Connecticut for the rest of my life, no matter what, even if I'm miserable, which there were days where I was miserable because I was working literally every day, open to close in this business. It was a retail store. During Christmas, one week I worked 105 hours. No lie. It was literally 105 hours all day, every day. Him and I, because we couldn't afford to hire any employees. But man, I learned a lot. So after a year, we closed that business. And then I ended up going into corporate America. And, my goal was just to keep moving up. I really didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Really wasn't my thing. My experience wasn't great with it in the beginning. So I just wanted to move up, wanted to be an executive of a Fortune company. I don't know why. I think somebody told me I couldn't do something once in my life. So I just had in my head that I had to prove them wrong. So I had that goal. So I just wanted to do whatever I could to continue moving up and working a corporate job, which is like the opposite of most entrepreneurs.
So you worked in as a corporate in a corporate job. You went down to Florida, and then how long did that last for? And then what point did you meet Kate? Like how did that connection come about?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I was working in a retail store, telecommunications company, and it was in a mall, and she was working in that mall
In Florida?
in Florida. Yeah,
Okay.
and she was paying her bill, and we just started talking, and it was always really interesting conversation. This mall was like a dead mall. It was so boring. So there's nothing else to do but go around it. And obviously the cell phone stores where everyone wanted to hang out. So we just we just talked, and we were friends for a long time. She ended up leaving Florida. I stayed for a few years. I moved around because that same job, I moved up in that job a few times, and then they moved me to New Mexico. And then that's really we really rekindled our relationship because she was in California and I was in New Mexico, which was much closer.
Wow. So she was actually your client, your customer first.
I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is interesting. And then eventually you moved out to California, right? And the rest
Yeah.
is history. Wow. Okay, so you want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial businesses that you're doing so far? Maybe just a little quick snapshot.
Yes, so I started with Amazon with e-commerce. We were selling skincare, pretty much everything in health and beauty space. And we also have an award-winning facial center here in California, and we're actually planning on opening it to the rest of the world through a licensing deal. And same as with our hotel brand in the Philippines, our goal for that one is to IPO it. That's just one of my ultimate goal, Dr. Finance, to IPO one company before I die. So I know really wanted to do it, and we acquire businesses as well here and there. Our mantra is really to work above the business, not in the business, and just do things that we love to do, not being forced of doing things we hate to do.
Kate, the resort that you guys own in the Philippines, since I heard about that, has attracted me. I think that is so cool that you guys actually own an entire resort. That's just such a, I mean, just to say the sentence alone is just something cool to say. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, it is crazy. I didn't really plan on opening one. It just like any other business I open, I just started with small. And then once it get traction and I put gas pedal on it, it actually started just one Airbnb. So I built this tiki hut with a pool, saying, well, every time I would go visit in the Philippines, I have a place to stay right next to the water. So I
Hmm.
listed an Airbnb and then booked 6 months in advance, and I have to decline guests. So I
Wow.
built another room, and that's book again. I was like, well, I'm gonna build more rooms, and it's book again. I have to constantly have to decline guests. So, well, I don't have enough space in that first plot of land because I wasn't really planning on opening it as a business. It was just for me and my family and friends to visit. So I ended up buying a second property in the mountain where I could build more facilities and do retreats. And we've been doing so good until pandemic hit, like any other businesses. But we built such a strong brand that we're going to be fine when everything opened up. But it was crazy because the national average occupancy across the world is 60%, and we are up to 90% occupancy
Wow.
rate. So that is something that I'm very honored and happy creating that brand. And the fact that we're not even there, that's even more awesome. Like they were really, I actually draw the design in a Starbucks, like napkin. And if you just see my drawing, I've just sent it to my team in the Philippines, and we just chat through Facebook messengers. That's how we utilize, and that's what I've been doing since 2012. I didn't know what Slack, so we were just doing a Facebook group, and that's how we communicate every day, and Facebook Messenger. And so I think that is one of my favorite my favorite brand that we created, because it just ran by itself without us being there, and it was successfully executed with us running it from 7,000 miles away. I think that's a goal of every single entrepreneurs. And that takes a lot of leadership, and the same as we're creating a club, like you putting the vision and core values, and putting together the right team that doing the right things right is the key. And how you treat people makes a huge difference.
What do you have? You guys have two hotels in the resort now, right?
Yeah, we have two, and we were about to open a third one. That project is on pause until everything open up, but we will be opening a third location once everything open up.
Okay. All right.
You're invited, by the way.
Oh, yeah. If it was around the corner, I would have been there already. But I'll definitely. I appreciate that. I definitely got that on the list. So we're going to get into the Entrepreneur Club in a little bit, but first, I just want to. I want to talk about some general questions. We'll do, I guess, popcorn style. So this, as the audience is mostly financial audience, but also entrepreneur. I want to start with your definition, maybe in a minute or less. What is an entrepreneur?
The entrepreneur is the relentless pursuit of opportunity with no controlled everything, right? That's what they say. But being an entrepreneur, I mean, we're all crazy. For us to it's like you trying to launch a ship outside the earth, and you don't know if it's going to explode, but we still keep on doing it. That's basically what entrepreneurship means to me. You don't know if it's going to work, but we're obsessed with it because we're competitive. We want to do things and prove ourselves. But we created 3% of, I mean, we're only 3% of the world, but created 60% of it, the world's economy. That's what it is.
Great point. Kate, Dan?
It's the definition of insanity. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I should be the one to define what an entrepreneur is. Kate's a much better entrepreneur than I am. But I mean, it's I think she said it best. You have to have the guts, you have to have the tenacity, you have to be able to be pushed down and get up. It's really great when you talk to somebody who's maybe been in business only for a few short years and they've had some success and they're like loving life and stuff. And you don't want to be, the negative person and tell them like, hey, everything has been going great right now. But the truth is you're probably going to get pushed down and it's going to be the most difficult thing in your life because it's just the truth. So I think it's always really good to talk to people talk to entrepreneurs who have been through the worst of things. I think that's who you can really learn from.
That's a good point, Dan. And as you were saying that, I was thinking of someone in our club. They call him the dream killer.
Well, that actually happened to us, Dr. Finance. It was 2018 on our way to our wedding in the Philippines. Amazon actually shut down an account, and literally overnight it stopped. And I have $500,000 worth of inventory in the FBA, the fulfillment center. And I was so depressed. I mean, I don't even know if I want to continue the wedding at that point. I said, Dan, what am I going to do? I mean, we already had these people agreed. Everything was already booked. It's like, you know what? Let me just go there and be present and deal with it later time. But like, I tried to numb half of my brain to kind of just be present with my friends and family and get married. But I think that was probably one of the darkest times as an entrepreneur. But when we look back, that was just like, at that time, I thought there's no light coming out. And I remember I would just hide in a comforter laying in bed. And Dan was actually the person that like, you got to get up. But I was probably sad and depressed for 90 days. It took me a while to get over that. Because I thought that was my identity. And I was like, more, what I'm going to say to my friends, I failed. But it is the life of the entrepreneur. We go to setbacks. Yeah, we might have to almost lost everything at one point, but we will figure it out and we will rebuild. And that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. So when COVID hits, I wasn't even phased at all. It's not that big of a deal. So definitely, get prepared of setbacks and all kinds of trials that one day you're going to lose your business. but it takes you a lot of humility, teaches me a lot of things. But that's really good for you to diversify and find 6, 7 ways of different stream of incomes that you can find.
That's a great point, Kate. And it reminds me of a lesson I have in my second book, The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. I actually have it on the wallpaper of my computer screen. The greater they are, the harder they failed. And studying many of the most successful people in history, I noticed that every one of them had some extremely large quantities of struggle that they overcame. There's something about them that they just had serious failures that was a part of them. But the difference is, compared to normal people, everybody fails. But the difference with them was they failed, they learned, and they came back even stronger. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about with entrepreneurship. I mean, you're going to fail. You got to learn to accept failure, and it'll make you stronger. So the greater they are, the harder they failed. So great point, Kate. And
I think I'd want to change my definition to that.
okay.
Because it's true. You think about the reason why most people who get knocked down, they don't continue. Hence the reason why you don't hear about them. You don't see them anymore, right? Like that really defines an entrepreneur. Those are the people that when you get knocked down, you keep going. And that would be my definition.
That's awesome. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kate, too. All right, folks. So we have a lot of questions because Kate and Dan, we're actually doing something right now. I'm gonna be writing an entrepreneur article based on your responses. So we're gonna get into some really cool stuff today, specifically with this business, this entrepreneur club room that we're doing with the marathon. But first, let's talk about just some general questions. I'm going to work into the Clubhouse thing. What does it take to run $1 million business? That's the next question. But before I ask that question, I just want to prep our audience. That's the name of their club. They created a club on Clubhouse called What Does It Take to Run $1 Million Biz? So in a minute or so, what does it take to run $1 million business?
Well, that takes cash, that takes hiring the right people, doing the right things right. That takes alignment, culture, vision, great products, making sure you're solving a problem. And that's what it takes to run $1 million business. Strategy. I forgot to say strategy.
Thanks, Kate. Dan?
So I can give you a little backstory as to why that is. I think Kate gave a great answer, so I don't think I can add anything to her answer. But I can tell you this, though, a big reason why we had that as the name is because Kate, she's part of an organization and it's a nonprofit. And that organization, you have to do $1 million a year in revenue. But companies that do $1 million a year in revenue or higher are some of the largest impact on the economy. So that's a big mark. I think that's why people talk about that, getting over that mark because of the impact it has. But only 2%, and Kate, you can correct me, I think it's 2% or is it 4%, but I believe it's 2% of companies that do over $1 million in the US are owned by women. So originally when we started over a year ago, our goal was actually to help increase that number, get that number to 4% or above by bringing women who have businesses that do over $1 million a year onto a show, and they can talk about their strategies and what they're doing to then help uplift other women in their business to get above that mark. So just a little backstory on that.
That's very interesting. So you're saying roughly 2 to 4% of women actually make over $1 million as entrepreneurs. Is that right?
No. So so out of all the businesses that do over $1 million a year in the US, I think it's 14%. So 14% of all companies in the US do over $1 million a year in revenue. So small portion, but out of that 14%, only 2% are owned by women.
Wow.
It's really, really small.
That's really small, yeah.
Yeah. So majority of women obviously don't have businesses that do over $1 million. So our goal when we originally started, and this is a little backstory, is when COVID hit, we had a lot of time to think about what we were going to do. And part of our mission, as you know, is to impact 100 million entrepreneurs. Well, part of that is how do you impact that? So our first our first way was we created a show, and that show was to uplift and inspire women to get above that $1 million mark. So just a little backstory on how it all started. It wasn't just started with Clubhouse. This was something that we started over a year ago.
Dan, I wasn't going to ask this question, but I just remembered it. So you brought up a good point. So your goal, I always hear you guys say you want to impact 100 million people, entrepreneurs. And please don't, I'm not trying to say this in the wrong way. I hope I say it right, but I'm just a math guy, and I think about, like, there's 8 billion people in the world, and 100 million is what, like 1/80th of that. So 95% of people over 5 years, says the SBA, says that the entrepreneurs fail, right? So you guys are not trying to make successful entrepreneurs. You're just trying to, at least, because that would be impossible, but at least reach them, at least touch their lives. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah. So originally we said 1 billion, but I don't think there can even be 1 billion entrepreneurs. So we figured let's just take 10% of that. Yeah, exactly. It's not to make them successful. It's to impact and inspire, to your point. But that's our big, hairy, audacious goal. That's like our 35, 40-year mark. That's not something we're thinking about doing tomorrow. So that's a lifetime goal. That's why we said it there. Like Kate always says, a BHAG needs to be scary. And to, 100 million seems scary, but exactly. So, I mean, if we can make one person not fail after 5 years, I'd be really happy with that. But it's also about providing the platform. And then, hey, let's say we impact Dr. Finance, and Dr. Finance goes, and maybe he impacts 100,000 people. Well, we put that 100, so it's you can't do 100 million people with 2 people, right? You can't impact. So we impact enough people who then go impact others.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that, I'd like to follow up. If what you said was correct, which I believe so, right? So 100 million people you want to impact and reach, not exactly make successful, because the SBA says statistics wise, it's impossible. You guys are actually a lot closer to your goal than you think. You started this club, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Just in this marathon room that we're running, over 200,000 people, right? I'm sure that you've already had millions of people, if you go back to December, have run through that room. And even if, just for simplicity purposes, you got 1 million people, you're 1/100th of the way there, and this thing's just starting. So, 30, 40 years, I think you guys can do it in a year or two. As a fact, if we do the media thing right for this club room, we can go 100x, not Grant Cardone style, but 100x, not 10x, but 100x through the media influential realm, and make that happen so much faster. And how cool would that be?
I know. So amazing.
So great responses, Kate and Dan. I appreciate that. And let's get into, all right, we're going to talk about your club now. So, oh, I'm sorry, I missed the question. Okay, we said, what it takes to run $1 million business. And this is a follow-up question, Ted, if you want to just give a simple answer. How do you run a successful business? Which is probably, interrelated with your last question, but I just have to ask that. So how do you run a successful business?
Can you answer that?
Yeah, you can go. Answer the last
All right.
one.
So I think I mentioned what it takes to run $1 million business and how to run a successful business. Again, making sure everyone's embracing your culture and your mission and your why. And if everyone will be rowing at the same direction, then you get there. And of course, that takes, like, again, cash is like a gas in your car. You need to have a gas to run your car. And you need to have constantly evolving and strategy, make sure it's on point. And culture is the key. Like, you gotta put that culture and core values in place, and you make sure you respect that. And that's how you're gonna run a successful business.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Dan?
No, yeah, I mean, back to you, Dr. Finance.
Okay. All right. Same thing. All right. All right. So now we're going to get into the club. So here goes the fun part. So tell us about how you first started this famous entrepreneur club on Clubhouse and the first room marathon. So just to give the audience a little background. So Clubhouse is an app similar to a lot of the other social media, except it's audio form only. So you actually go on stage and you talk, and and you invite guests and do things like that. They started a club called How to Run a Million Dollar Biz, and it's a very famous club there, 50,000 plus followers and growing. And the way they started was such an interesting story, especially the part about the marathon. So let's hear your story on that. So tell us about how you started this club and the first room marathon.
Oh, yes. So we started about December 12th, Dan and I, and in the beginning, we felt out of place in the hallway. It's only the music room, rappers room. It's more entertainment. So I don't really see any place where I belong, or there's a club that exists, but everyone is just pitching, and I don't want to be in that pitch room. Like, I want to have a good content where we can have conversation. What's your strategy? What's your next move? Like, just a really nice solid room. So eventually we started a room, and we were kind of playing around with title, and it's just me and Dan and only 3 people.
Wow.
And literally only 3 people.
Who
It
was the
just
third, Jodine?
No, it was Brent. I think Brent
Okay.
is the lawyer and he's still there. And sometimes you would probably have 5 people, and we would talk for maybe 30 minutes, and eventually it dies down. And we would kind of play around and look at what other people are doing, but it's just not a place where I feel like I really wanted to hang out in this room. And so, because knowing I have a great support of people that run a successful business. And that's the reason why I created the title, What It Takes to Run a $1 Million Business. And that was the start. And it was December. It was Christmas Day. It was a boring Christmas day because we're all locked down in California. I think the rest of the world at that time. And I said, Dan, what are we going to do? It's 9 a.m. and we have nothing else to do. We have no plan. We can't see our friends. Why don't we start a Clubhouse room?
Wow.
And that was it. Dan, go ahead from there.
Yeah, I mean, just something to add there too. A few days before this, there was a person, a very famous person was in a room. Somehow I got on stage. I don't even know why. They were doing something about books. I shared, my favorite book. And then I wanted to ask that person a question, and I tried. And then somebody actually kicked me out of the room and knocked me to the audience too, because they realized I didn't belong there. And I think that's a part of the reason why we are so inclusive around, just because you don't have followers or you don't have fame outside doesn't mean you don't have something to add. But yeah, to Kate's point, so a few hundred people came in that room that day. We were really blown away. I'm like, why did all these people come in this room? The room got really busy. And during that, we started to recruit some people who could help us. And then we woke up the next day and the room was still going. So I mean, that was just, we were blown away. Like, it was never an expectation around, let's do this marathon room. It was just, let's open a room because we're bored. And then we talked about our mission, and a bunch of people just loved that mission and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, actually, the second day, Dr. Fine, someone accidentally blocked us in the room. We can't get in the room. 200 people out there.
Wow.
Well, I was in one person's room, and they said, oh, the longest room is 12 days. So when we were, and I know someone tried to beat that 12 days, but they weren't successful. It only lasts maybe 24 hours. So when we were running the room and we have 200 people, I was like, hey, guess what? Why don't we try and beat the record? That's just being the competitive nature of me. Like, I want to beat something. I want to do something and beat the record. And that's why I created the marathon. And we made it to 20 days, 24 hours a day back then, starting from December 25th of 2020.
Okay, so the room started the 25th, but what day did you start the club?
That we didn't get the club approved until January 12th, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You
back
couldn't just
then it's so hard to get in to open a club.
You had to apply for a club, and it was so hard.
So that's interesting. I didn't know that. So you actually had the room before the club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize that. But that's pretty cool though. So you did this without the power of a club behind you, which is completely different than the marathon going on now that we'll talk about soon.
Yeah, so I mean, we had like hardly any. We had like 20 followers, right?
Wow.
And we didn't know anyone.
I have 10.
She had 10 followers. So
Yeah.
it was really incredible. That it was just, I think I don't want to say it's luck, but Kate is really great with copywriting. The title, I mean, it wasn't just like she came up with the title. I mean, that was a well thought out title that she made specifically. So catchy title. I know yesterday, our amazing guest that you brought in, he talked exactly like, and that's the funny thing is I was thinking, Kate thought of that specific title, and the title was catchy and people didn't really understand how to do it then. And it was a headline, so it caught the attention. Plus, there was no entrepreneur community. There really was no like business rooms. It was all like pitch marketing rooms, if it was anything outside of entertainment. So this was the first one where we also, that Q&A format really wasn't being done before.
Mhm.
The Q&A format is another reason, like we talk about impacting people, but we really created that Q&A format, and we had some standard operating procedures in the background. We really did Kate was really instrumental in this, but creating a startup essentially.
Yes, we're all testing. And like when we were running the marathon room, I was just putting the rules and what to do based on how the room flows, and that
Mhm.
what you're seeing is a collective of days and days of observation of what works. How can you not it boring? We need to have an MC that's energetic, like you, Dr. Finance, like that voice, it has to be not monotone, and you got to do it like speed it, move on fast, because people will get bored with being when you just join a room and there's dead silence. It's gonna kill the room, right?
Mhm.
Like, but my hands were so tight from typing because I have to coach the MC, and then I would shot in the background like, let's do it. Like it is like a live summit. I treated it like I was running a live summit, and like, okay, next speaker on, like move on fast. Like you're running that logistics. It is a lot of work to
Mhm.
run it successfully.
Oh, if anybody
And
knows, I know exactly what you guys went through.
yes, and not only that you want to make everyone embrace the goal and making all the moderators happy. I mean, that's another big
Yeah.
80% of the work, right? And it's a lot of leadership that you really need to know what you're doing in order to build a successful community, especially in this app where everyone's successful. And how do you convey it to everyone that it's not all about you? And we
Mhm.
all know entrepreneurs, we are all self-centered, no doubt about it. It's part of your DNA. And that's why you're successful. You want to run a successful business because you want to prove yourself. I mean, we all have that in our DNA. So how do you make everyone really embrace the goal and the why and the core values? And that's the beauty of it. And I don't think everyone can do it, but it can be done.
So Kate and Dan, walk me through the story after the marathon. So the marathon lasted 20 days, right? Starting December 25th. Is that right?
Yeah, so
Yes.
originally we wanted to do 13 days to break the 12-day mark. So originally it was 13 days. When we got to 13 days, kind of like now, people were a little bit sad of it ending. So we just kept it going. But I had like a nervous breakdown at day 20. That's why we closed it.
On day 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, on day 20, really.
we're not having sleep, and
Oh,
we could hear the background. We're sleeping because we want to make sure the room's not, you know, it did not end it and stuff like that, making sure no one is saying profanity words. It's
mhm.
making sure that, the
Integrity score.
conversation is the
Yeah.
integrity of the room. I mean, especially you don't have any control. Everyone can just say random things that could hurt the brand of
Sabotage the
what you
room.
guys
Yeah.
are doing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think more of that is I'm very I'm very protective of the integrity of the room, and that's why we curated the moderator. I pay attention to how they act in the room
Mhm.
and the way how they answer questions. Okay, this person sounds really good. So far we've done a good job. We probably made a little mistake, but I would say 97% of the time we pick the right people. That's being in a moderator group. Squad, we call it
Yeah,
squad.
we even had we even had a way that they had to apply
Oh,
to be.
really?
Yeah, we had an application process and a form set up, and people that would would
Be a
go.
moderator?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, we were very selective, especially in the beginning when you talk about what it takes to run $1 million business. We want to make sure you run $1 million revenue minimum a year for you to really explain how it's being done and you have an experience. So we really kept it like, again, make sure you're saying the right thing, you know what you're talking about, because we want to provide a great content to the audience and that we all can learn from each other.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the size of the rooms, like right now, I know you see if you have 400 or 500 people consistently in the room,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, you probably have 20,000 people. Back then, we had no less than 1,000 people in the room. So,
Why was that, Dan?
well, number one, there wasn't a lot of rooms going. There was no rooms in entrepreneur. We're the only business room going in the whole app, right? And the other thing too is we had everybody in there. Like John Lee was going, 14 hours a day emceeing. You had Grant Cardone, Damon John. You had everybody, everyone that has like a following, and then we had like all the celebrities started in there. So
Started in your room. These people
in the
started.
room, yeah.
Wow.
So Damon John said Kate is like his favorite MC,
No,
and
he said it's his favorite room.
it's
He
his favorite
actually
room.
said like, man, you guys are smart. I'm going to take notes and I'm going to say it in Shark Tank, but I'm not going to say I'm learning it from you. But he was just there listening.
Yeah, he was there listening. So everyone came in that room. So because of that, we constantly had, it would say like there was 1,000 people in the room constantly. So you got to factor there probably was 80,000 people, 60,000 people every day. I mean, we did one of those, the fun day was, and then Kate can tell you this story about Grant Cardone got a movie deal for the first time in his life in the room.
Wow.
Live. Yeah.
Live.
A movie deal? First
A
time?
Yeah.
movie deal. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, and even the founder of the club stopped by because it was the word in the street is this is an awesome room, and so it's like, oh, the founder of the app stopped by and he was listening to the conversation. But we've raised money in there. We've helped a lot of people. I think we raised over 17 grand, like literally everyone just chipping in, helping people. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's that sense of community, and people are just so generous of their time, and everyone is just really willing to help. They wanted to give back to the community, and a lot of successful business owner, well, thank you for creating this platform, this room. This time I can contribute.
Yeah.
So Kate and Dan, walk me through what happened after that. Before we get to the marathon, we had about a 3-month gap. So I'm assuming you guys were just so burnt out, because I've been there, that you just were like, all right, let's just take a chill for next few months. Is that right? Just basically relax the next few months and had casual rooms?
We were opening rooms every day, different topic. We were testing different.
Okay.
We were opening a smaller rooms, and it was a way more deeper conversation. We talk about diversity and inclusion. We were at one point I was talking about skill sets or mindset or what it takes for you to be an entrepreneur. What is the real life of an entrepreneur? We've had that, and we actually started that how to build a personal brand in Clubhouse, and you see that title circling and everyone recreated, but we started a whole different I think we've put together a lot of great title on Clubhouse.
Yeah, I could tell you every title that's being used, we used already. So that's the thing. We found out we'd have a 2 to 3 week window before everyone on the app is now using the same title that we did. We were the first ones to do the versus titles, like you said, how to build your personal brand. And I mean, all these, every 3 weeks, so, everyone else would use the exact same title of the room. So we'd have to shift to a new one. But yeah, definitely the room size got smaller, but I think it was a lot more information and data gathering. It was also a lot more fine tuning and figuring how things, how do we add more people in the club? Like, how do we add more value to the club? Also, like you're saying, if you have 1,000 people in the room, it's a different atmosphere when there's 1,000 people or 500 people than when there's 80 people.
Mhm.
So, we really realized this, and cultivating more, like cultivating the team and the culture. I think it gave us a little bit more time to relax and to do this versus, like what you're saying, always focused on the integrity of the room. We could actually focus on this, and and really go out there and find people that want to open up their own rooms. So that's another thing too, is we really provide the platform and helped a lot of other people open up rooms. So it wasn't constantly us doing it.
And so basically a lot of experimenting. And so that's why when we got to the point of this marathon, which we're going to talk about in a moment, you guys were already armed with so much data and experience to know how to take it over the top with a lot less energy as the first marathon because of this work that you already put into the pipeline, right?
Absolutely. Well, we call it the longest virtual summit ever in the world. Dr. Finance.
Yeah. So let's talk about that case. That's our next question. All right. So we talked about, I'm sorry. Okay. So I kind of skipped over a question. What does it take to run a successful, we'll get there. Just one second. I'm sorry. What does it take to run a successful entrepreneur club on Clubhouse in like 1 minute or less? And then we'll get into the club.
It is the same as you're running a company. Make sure your why and your mission is there. And I think that's the only way you can run a successful entrepreneurship club on Clubhouse. And if you are inclusive and embracing to everyone, I mean, there's beauty with other people's opinion. I think you got to be open and embracing to everyone. That's what it takes for you to run a successful entrepreneurship club community on Clubhouse.
Thank you, Kate. Dan?
Yeah, I think she said it best. And it's giving people an opportunity and not looking at their following count.
Yeah, that's important too. I agree, Dan. That's what I give you guys a lot of respect. I am in a lot of those other rooms, just experiment as well. And I see that you guys are one of the few, if not the only ones that really accept anyone with just like 10 followers or under. You don't really care as long as, usually you have some standards. You want to see a profile, a picture and things like that. But other than that, you let everybody up to the stage. Very different than other entrepreneur club owners. So thank you. And the reason I apologize. I have so many questions. The reason is because this all popped on the fly. And I want to really document what's going on here because folks in the audience, what they're doing, this is happening right now. It's in the moment thing. And I think it's time to pause and see where we're at and just learn about this situation. There's so many things we can learn as entrepreneurs from this little case study here, how you run a successful club and a successful room twice in the capacity it is. If you can do that with just where people are volunteering their time for free, anything's possible. So that leads into the modern times. So let's see. Okay. And sorry, I really literally made these questions this morning. What does it take, before we tell the story, one more question. What does it take to run a successful entrepreneur room / stage on Clubhouse? So last question was club. Now we're focusing on the room.
Jen, you want to get that?
No, you can start.
Yeah. So how to run a successful room. Number one, you have to make sure it's a catchy title. What works, I think, by doing a lot of testing is the how to. It really works for us from based on experimenting. And then make sure you really reset the room every 20 minutes so people know what's going on, especially when you have a new audience and you don't know what you guys are talking about. And make sure you set the rules and guideline, and you have to do that every single reset, because sometimes the title of the room doesn't really necessarily like what we're talking at this moment. It could be a little break or a chill night or whatever. It could be an award night, right? So I think the key is really stating the rules of expectations for moderators and listeners is the key to run a successful room. And that reset is so key. And make sure you have a back channel. That's where the logistics coming in. We have about 150 moderators in a back channel. That's in and out. And so it's so important for you to have that communication in the back channel.
Thank you, Kate. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, she said it best. It's people aren't going to come in your room if it's not something that they want to, if it's not that headline. And I think we know from most content, even on the internet, if you're answering a question, then people want to listen. So that's why we always do the question as the title. But I think it's just like a TV show. People are going to stop in there and they're going to decide within 15, 30 seconds whether they're going to stay. So if the room is not appealing and there's not energy in the room, like what Kate said, one MC in that room could basically drop the whole audience off. And you'll see it because somebody might switch over. Like when Dr. Finance comes on, the rooms really go up. If you have a personality, and I think people are looking for it, you're the host of the show, and Kate's the executive producer. So I think you really have to think of it that way, and you have to treat it like it's an actual TV show.
No, that's perfect. I just want to chime in real quick. You guys have stated it perfect. And Dan, you're right. It does take leadership. I noticed that. So I imagine when you guys first ran that marathon the first time, because you guys were the original MC, the lead moderator most of the time. I know you guys have a great voice and you know what to look for. That's the reason that was successful. I mean, forget about the fact that Kate had started us with the right title and all that, which is extremely important. But you need a leader, and you guys are leaders. So, if you took that quality out of you and you just started a room with a title like that, it would have never worked. It's because who you guys are that made that first marathon work, right?
Well, I have to be honest, I'm not a good moderator because I'm so ADD. I have a scatterbrain. I'm way better leading the team back channel and producing the show, making sure we have a great content and it's fast and it's engaging. And I am not a good moderator, to be honest. I think because I'm not a talker, Dr. Fine, I struggle. I run out of gas after 10 minutes. And the whole entire marathon, actually, you rarely hear me talk because I was just leading behind the scene. I rarely talk. First of all, I was scared to talk. I have imposter syndrome, and I would have this. It's like my heart palpitating to answer a question. I feel like, yeah, it was like. So I'm gonna say, and I'm done. Like I'm like so scared to talk. I mean, it's a different thing, and it was actually Jodine was running the whole entire room and other people. So again, the hype. I mean, the right voice and the energy and the one that could really focus, because we all know moderating a room, it requires laser focus to run a successful and engaging room.
Yeah, something to add that the interesting thing is coming out of that, Kate and I realized something. I don't want to say we made a mistake, but I think I found an opportunity for us. And coming out of that, nobody had any clue what we do. And what I realized is we were so focused on providing the platform for others to shine, right? For others to build their following, to build up their business, to provide information. We were never focused on us. So like what Kate said, a lot of times she'd be in the background, hardly talking. Me, I'd be doing some emceeing. But the thing is, I never answered questions. I always just said, who wants to take this over? And then once it was over, I moved to the next person. So nobody knew that if I knew anything, right? So it was interesting how we spent like 99% of the time focusing on everybody else. And we realized, wait a minute, if we really want to build this brand and build it out, people do need to know a little bit about us. And that's something that we said, okay, let's refocus some things. And now let's talk more than what we did. So I think if you listen now, we talk 80% more than what we actually talked before.
That's a great point. Thank you, Dan and Kate. All right, folks. Now what everyone's been waiting for. Tell us the detailed version of the story of the new marathon room on your club on Clubhouse. So it started, I believe, let's see, was that March? No, that was May. Sorry, April 30th? Yeah, no, was that April 30th?
Yep,
April Friday? 30th. Yeah, began. Can you tell us start, chronologically how that worked out? And that's what we're basically documenting as well as getting to know you guys today on the podcast.
Well, how to run a successful business. We've been running this title here and there, in and out. And based on our testing in the previous weeks, that's the one that we can go back to that same formatting that we did early on, but we can't name the title of the room and the club the same thing, but it's the same concept, right? And so we've been testing that, and we're getting traction. But it's actually to you, Dr. Finance, when you're running it on Friday, you're the Friday nighter moderator. And
Finance
it was,
Friday.
yes, it's a Friday. And I've heard everyone so rallied in there, and it's like, hey, why don't we beat the record? It was just out of nowhere. And I said, like, why don't we just do more than 24 days? You know what? I do get competitive when someone say this XYZ did it, and I want to beat that record. And that's a drive in me, that if someone tells me that can't be done, no, I want to make it happen. And that's the reason why we shoot for, originally it was 24 days, and now we're what, 34 days?
30,
Why don't we
31.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shoot over the moon?
35. That would be
35
35 days.
35
Yeah.
days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what exactly happened that morning? So let's take it from the beginning. You guys woke up. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. You opened up a room. Is that right?
Yeah, we opened up the room, and someone is taking over the room. And I think it was in the afternoon when you were there, and it was a busy room. And when we mentioned that we were the longest running room, 20 days, 24 hours a day, and I actually said, like, someone actually did the 23 days. And I said, what? Did someone really beat our record? And that's when it's like, oh, let's do it, more than 23 days. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So we didn't even think of it. We just went through it. I mean, we just decided, like, let's do the 24 days. And that is because of you. The room was filled with audience, and we just went with it.
So question for you. So I got to tell a little bit about myself in order to really inject into the story to understand it better. So I went to lunch. I came back, it was like 3, 4 o'clock. I'm like, all right, I have a few hours to kick. And so I hung in the room, and I think Sharon was leaving, Shannon, and the room went down to like 12 people. Normally it just closes out, right? The room just folds by itself.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I had a few hours, and people just kept coming in. And I had such a solid group that it just grew. We had Arlene Dickinson here that night, Dragon's Den. We had Forbes Riley. She's actually coming on the podcast, I think, in 2 weeks. So, and we came up to 500 plus people. Now, if I didn't come in that room would have died. You just would have closed it. Like, you had no intentions of doing this.
Absolutely. Yeah. We just would end the room.
Yeah, because usually what we do is we start a room every day at 7 a.m., 6, 7 a.m. every day. We always do that. And then we always do a room in the evening. So we always do 2 rooms every single day. That's what we've committed to. Not necessarily Kate and I running the whole room, but people would come in, they take over. We do different titles. So usually what happens is you start at 7 a.m. and then like around noon, 1, 2 o'clock, it kind of dies out. They close the room. And then a few hours later, we start another room. So, today it was destiny. So you came in there, and I think it was, somebody had mentioned in the room, hey, there was someone who did 23 days and 59 minutes. So that's when Kate said,
I was actually a little bit upset. The immature side of me, I actually get like, what? And I was like questioning, did it really happen? I have not heard of it, and I know how hard it is to run a room, as we all know, right? Like, it takes a lot of manpower, and it takes
Woman
a
power.
lot of your energy. Yes, like it just, there's no way. But looking back, I think then I kind of like, I think I've seen that room, but there's only 5 people. They're doing a marathon, but it's only 5 people. So
Yeah, they usually only have. I know the room you're talking about. I never seen them have more than like 30 people.
Yeah, their total was 57,000, 56,000 people total.
For the 23 days. So we're triple that amount of audience. So yeah, that was just, hey, let's do it. And it was collective of like, why don't we make it 31 days? They went crazy. Now we're past the 31 days.
Part of that too was there was one of the members, her and a friend, she was running for 250 miles. I think it was a week long or a few days. They're running 250 miles straight from LA to Vegas. for a cause, and we wanted to help support that cause. So that's why we wanted to extend it a few days, because she wanted to be live while she was running and be able to speak and be on Clubhouse while she's literally running 250 miles straight.
Wow. I didn't know that. You know, and I'm asking these questions also to understand it myself, because I'm still trying to figure out what happened. It was total accident that this happened. I mean, not accident. It was purpose that I wanted to have a cool room to moderate for a few hours. And my side of the story, I didn't mean to go 10 hours that night. I actually stood on my feet for 10 hours. But I just seen the room kept going up and up, and I'm like, I can't let them down. So that's what kept me going. I'm like, this room's big. They're not going to, I don't know what'll happen, but it'll probably not be as good as this if I leave now. So I have to keep going. So 10 hours I was there, and then I woke up, and this is what I'm still trying to figure out. So what happened when I came in on Saturday? I just couldn't believe, if you saw my face, I was so shocked to see that this room was still going, and it had, I think, like 400 people still in the room. I mean, it was, so how did you guys work through that decision the next day?
Well, I mean, right then when we planned on creating and beating a record that's already there, I actually called Dan, like, hey, can we have VA put this Google Sheets together and make sure everyone's putting, their time, who's going to run at the exact time. So that way we're covered. So I was all excited, and I was questioning, I guess we're all doing this again. We're crazy enough to do it the second time around. But so I just went with it with no expectations, but it really comes beautifully. The reason why I say that is everyone is just chipping in and doesn't really requires a lot of my managing being there 24 hours, because I definitely got burnt out from doing that. I was drinking a lot of coffee and not working out because I was listening to the room, making sure I was so protective of the integrity of the room and how the room being run, that it ran over me, and I don't want to make that same mistake. And so this is so beautiful because everyone just know the expectations. Yeah, we can expect it to be perfect all the time, but the fact that how many people we've touched and impacted is way bigger than the little dot of mistake that went through. So I think that's the beauty of it. It is truly a power of a team, and everyone is just chip in, like, everyone was just embracing to their cause. And I think that is so beautiful.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we did is we had a lot of this stuff set up, like we were saying before. We already had a bunch of people in chats and back channels, if you want to call it. So we already had a lot of people set up where it wasn't like we were scrambling to find people to continue the room. We've collected people. We realized from the first go around that you need to have people all around the world. So that's what we did. We made sure we had people in Australia, in Europe, in Asia, as well as North America. So no matter what time it was, there was always somebody that can take over and continue the room flawlessly. So I think we already had that in place, not at the level that we have now, because we did, the first go around, we didn't have that many MCs. Most people were MCing that first go around for like 10 hours a day, would be like the minimum shift. I mean, that's why I had a nervous breakdown. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of known, like she's saying, Jodine and other people, they went that long, 8 to 10 hours. And what we saw is a lot of those people are no longer on the app because there was an extreme amount of burnout. So now we say, okay, we need to be more open to more MCs, more moderators, more people. So that's why we collected so many people in a chat, in a group. And what we've continued to do is every day we try and collect more amazing minds that want to help out, that want to give their time and build their personal brand or following.
And yeah, and to make it run successfully too, you can't just do Q&A for 24 hours for 31 days. So I actually created the sheets that, think of this as a TV show where each hour has a different segment, and then go back to the Q&A formatting, as long as you're doing the reset, right? So, and then it's not boring. You're not just doing Q&A the whole entire time. So that's why we were able to get in the speakers of imposter syndrome and your big hitter speakers like the PR last night and Laurel. So it's kind of a mix of really a live summit, right? But the behind the scene too, Dr. Finance, things that don't people realize, that running the second marathon, it is really like you acquiring a big company and merging it together. Not everyone's going to be embracing to that growth. Not everyone's going to be embracing to the new goal of growth, right? So that, for that, like it takes a lot of behind the scene leading and making sure everyone's not wobbly about where they are in place. It makes some people being insecure. You have a new employee coming in or new moderator coming in, then they're getting wobbly. It's like, well, I'm not liking this. So not everyone was on board. For the people that's been running the rooms and being consistent there of the marathon, it took me a while to fully, I would say the first 2 weeks was not very good. But I what I was been doing is just reminding them of the why. It's not about you and your followers. It's a community of a common goal. What we're trying to achieve is to help as many entrepreneurs as we can. And still have some people that are not very embracing of the marathon, but it's such a small dot. But like, again, it's like your current company merging that employee all at once, and everyone going to be happy about it. So it's the same analogy.
Would you say that it's a lot easier on this marathon to run than the first one? I mean, you're now almost double what you did the first time. I mean, has that doubled your energy, or
It's absolutely the less control you do, the better you're building a community. But again, that's takes a lot of you as a leader to kind of know how to do it. Because when you do less control, do you really know how to lead a team and making sure they're on point of what they're supposed to do, right? So as long as you make them feel like you've validate what they've been doing, like everyone, it works as you running a company, whether it started from the goldfish to an adult. When everyone feels heard, embraced, and celebrated, then they're out there for you.
Hey, I just got an idea. Sorry to interrupt you. This podcast episode could be like the presentation to become a moderator. It's kind of like when you work at McDonald's, they make you watch videos. You can give all the new moderators, say, look, go watch this episode. I explain it all right there. When you do that, you go to the next round.
Yes, absolutely. So and you get that the same as you leading a team, leading your employee. It's the same as you running a clubhouse room or community. You got to go through things where people don't get along, and everyone's like, I mean, it's just the same thing. You're leading an employee and leading a moderator, a successful moderator that runs different businesses. You have different personality, but the fact that we were able to make it 34 days, it's just fascinating to me. I think that of all the things, I'm just so excited about it.
Oh, we're in a different territory now. This is media time. So Kate, and Dan, what would you say is your, so just to clarify the last answer, you said yes, right? It is a lot easier. Dan, would you agree? It's a lot easier in the first marathon?
Yeah.
A lot, like if you said 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, would you say it's like 10
15.
times 8?
15.
15.
Yeah.
It's totally different. Yeah, I mean,
it's you have a whole new set of
it went by so fast.
You guys actually get 8 hours of sleep now, right?
Yeah, I think the cool thing is, like what Kate said, the startup. Think of it like you have. So one thing is you need to do marketing, right? So we do marketing. We have social media stuff. You need to, it's like outbound reach. We have to make sure that we contact people, let them know when the room's going to start, let them know we're going to have guest speakers, get people in the room, right? We have customer service, and customer service is fielding messages that are coming in through Instagram. people message us every day like, hey, I didn't like this speaker, or I can't believe this happened, right? So it's like fielding customer service. So it's really a lot. Like, it's not just running a club. If you really want to run it all the time successfully, you almost need to have these different departments, and you're doing things just like you're doing a business and a startup. It's really interesting if you want to do it right. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of clubs. I rarely see anybody open up rooms anymore. A lot of the people that were in there, I rarely even see them on the app anymore. And you don't see clubs doing this because it's not just opening up a room, right? You can open up a room, but if you want to do this successfully and you want to have over 200,000 people come by and not have a lot of issues, we only had one troll that ended a room abruptly. I mean, that's not bad for 32 days, 33 days.
Yeah, that was week 2, I think, on Friday, right?
Yeah, the first marathon, it happened, there was a lot of frequent issues that we had. So I think if you really want to do this, it really is treating it like a business, and you almost need to have these different departments. And I think the thing too is people message us like, hey, do you pay some of these people? I was just talking to somebody this morning. I'm like, look, we don't pay people, right? Because like Kate said, when you rally the community and you build the platform for others to shine, like I said in the beginning, it's not about us. It's about everybody else, and they're shining, and we're giving them the ability to build their business, to build their following, to build their personal brand. Many people, they are successful business owners, but they've never built their personal brand before. So we're helping them do that, and they see that, and they see, just they're making friends, and the people that they're meeting. It's something much bigger than just being. Sorry, it's something much bigger than just being in a room. And I think you have to create that environment. People see that.
Thanks, Dan. All right, we just got we got a couple more questions. I just want to finish up this documentary of the room itself. So can you give us some detailed statistics of this marathon in terms of numbers, how many people been through there? And then I like to also ask what celebrities, I want to actually name them, that have been in the room.
Dan, you have all the data.
Yeah, we're around 220,000 now.
220,000 today is day 25 of running the longest stage pretty much in Clubhouse, not let alone room. That's a lot of people in one room.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to do the celebrities, Kate?
Yes.
So what celebrities? So I'll start off. We had Loral Langemeier. Well, we started out with Forbes Riley. We had Arlene Dickinson, Dragon's Den, 13 seasons. She came on there so many times. She was there the first day. I brought Loral Langemeier, brought Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. Last night was Steve Harrison, top PR guy in the world. We got Bob Berg coming next Wednesday. But maybe you can name some more. I know Dan, you added Ryan Blair. That was the first time I met him, but he seems like a superstar.
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have Grant Cardone there, pretty regular, Damon John. We even have Ty Lopez in there, Jan Asaraf. We have a Patrick Starr.
Sorry, Kate, is it for this marathon though?
Oh, for this marathon.
Yeah.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah, so who else is in there, Dan?
Yeah, so they all joined, the ones you said, except for Damon John. I don't think he's even on the app anymore. But for now, I mean, we had Kara Golden from Hint. I mean, celebrity is
Business celebrities.
Business celebrities,
Yeah,
right?
business.
Might be a little bit different. I mean, I don't know if Liz Heller would be a celebrity, but she's an amazing executive producer in Hollywood. I mean, made some great movies that we all know. Who else have we had? I mean, there's so many people that have been in there.
Grant Cardone actually did stop by. He was in the audience. I don't know if he got on stage when
He's been on stage a few times. You weren't there though.
In the marathon?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the marathon.
Yep.
Wow.
He actually said he wants to do the founder's story. I have to follow up with him. He said he'll do anything for the Pivot Queen. That's what he said.
That's great.
He did say that. I mean, we had, John Ledger stops in all the time from the ex-T-Mobile CEO. He never comes on. He's a quiet person, so he's always hanging out. Who else, Kate?
We would have a lot. I mean, there's so many people that exited a 9-figure companies.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, just a level of people that are listening. Like Dan, you mentioned it 100 times. Like, I'm just shocked they're listening, but it is truly it's good for market research. I mean, as an entrepreneur, we're thirst for learning, right? You just learn every day new stuff that you have not heard before. And that's the fascinating things about it. I mean, I would say if you're a speaker or a coach, I would go sit there and listen. That it makes you 100 times more smarter than you were 30 days ago.
I know we had so many, Constant Contact co-founder was in there yesterday. We have Jeff Hoffman from Priceline. He's coming in there next week. We have so many people lined up. We have somebody tomorrow. He exited a $400 million business and just IPO'd a company last Friday. There's so many people that, like you're saying, celebrity. I don't know if there's celebrity status, but in the business world.
How about like media people like Jason Feifer from Entrepreneur, the head over there? Did he come in?
Yeah, so Jason Feifer's been there. Yep, from Entrepreneur. And then we've had a ton of journalists.
Dave Kerpen was in, I believe.
Yep. We have there's a woman who comes in. She has a global women's magazine. I can't remember the name right now, but she has also a really large social media following, and I think she's more famous in Europe. We've had a bunch of TV. I mean, I have to go through the list. I gotta go.
So just so many. We can't mention everyone. Yeah, so many.
Yeah, that's
Dr. Finance.
Dr. Finance, he's an international 3-time bestseller. I don't know if you know him.
Number one bestseller.
There
you go. People were actually asking, we need to do your founder story, because everyone's like, they want to hear your story. It's just you interviewing other people, but people are curious about your story. So that's something we need to put in the books.
Sure, absolutely. Anytime. All right, so the marathon, I think we're done with that, except, one more question. What are some of the common questions asked in the Q&A by new entrepreneur speakers? And the reason I added that is because, as you said, the Q&A is a part of the discussions that we have. Sometimes the Q&A becomes the default after, like, we have a speaking event like last night. It usually always is the default. If we don't have nothing else to do, we'll be like, all right, well, Q&A, let's open it up. So what's some of the, like, maybe top 2 or 3 questions that you think they've asked you, the people in the audience asked you so much, you're just getting tired of it?
Yeah, I think when people they want to do 3, 4, 5 different things, and when you're chasing 2 rabbits, you got none, right? Like, I think that's what a lot of confused entrepreneur, they don't know how to niche their product or services, and they're just doing too many things, and it's just chaotic. I think that's the common theme, especially for a startup.
Dan?
Yeah, that's a good common question, though, about people just don't know where to start, or maybe it has to do with, building teams. But I think a lot of the marketing questions, how do I market my business? How do I gain more clients, more customers? That's a frequent question.
Okay, thanks, Kate and Dan. All right, last question on this, and then we're going to wind down, folks. So what are your plans for this room if other members of the club wanted to keep going, like in terms of media and everything else? Like, where are we going with this?
Hey, if we're shooting for 3 months, 6 months, why not stop if it's not broken, right? It's good to have a place where when you're available, you can just go there and join. And the fact that we're attracting more people, and like, again, our mission is to inspire 100 million entrepreneurs. And if you can keep on going, then that's way better for all of us.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Dan?
Yeah, no, I see, and we talked about this a long time ago. I always saw this as being our channel. So the club is like our TV channel. And in that channel, you have different segments. Like she's saying, that's why we create the founder story. That's why we create different things. But it's really, if the room isn't running 24/7, it is kind of hard to do that, because then you're relying on other people to start the room. But when you have the room, people feel more comfortable to just come in when they want, like Kate said, and add in a segment. So I think, this is like fulfilling kind of what we saw from the beginning, which was creating something like a TV channel where it's always running. And we get so many people comment, it's like, hey, it was 11 p.m. at night. I couldn't sleep. So I just came in the room. And it's funny how many people actually message us like, I love your room. In the beginning, people were like, oh, well, they're not going to show up because it's running all the time. Right. And they can expect it. Well, actually, no, people, it's the opposite. It's people's podcast in the day. People tell me all the time, hey, I just listen. It's like my background noise. I'm working and it's my podcast. I don't listen to podcasts. We've had people tell us they don't even watch Netflix anymore because this is like their TV, right? This is their media consumption that they're getting because they know we're always there and we always bring in great content. And I think for us, we're always looking for that, like people like yourself who have, bring in amazing speakers and have great things to say. We want to get you out. Like we said, we're like the producers, Kate's the executive producer. It's not about us. It's about how can we get more people recognized? How can we get more people to the stage, maybe that haven't on other places? And how can we get more people to shine? I think that's something that this room is fulfilling.
I like that. I like how you put that, Dan. And that kind of reminds me of what Steve Harrison said last night. If you can't get the media, be the media. So, I mean, if you're heading in line with that direction, you would become media. If you're
exactly when he said that, exactly when he said that, I was like, wow, you know what? We wanted to become the media. When COVID hit in April of last year, we created a media company. It wasn't to do PR. The media company was actually to diversify media and bring, like I was saying, impact more women in business. That is what we did. We created media for that purpose. Never having experience. And I think it built us the experience of how media works. And so now with this room, it's such a great addition, not just for the reach, but yes, if you don't like what the media is saying or how the media is run or who they're portraying, then I love that. Just be the media. And that's basically what we're all doing here.
The only thing I like to add, and this is a challenge I'm sure we're all working on here, and you guys definitely behind the scenes, is if this becomes that way, we're going to need more of schedules, right? Like it just can't be freelanced anymore. It would need to be like a TV guide. You would need, okay, a how to run a successful business guide. Here's our room. This is the guide for today. This is 1 hour, and you go down the list. This is what's happening at 2 o'clock. This is at 4 o'clock. We got to find a way to get that to the moderators successfully to make that work. Because my whole thing is like, if I'm bringing these big guests on, got to make sure that like it's marketed properly at this time, because if not, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the guest, that speaker that's coming on, because I didn't properly market them, and their name's not going to be on the club room, unlike other rooms where we're like, okay, well, Bob Berg's coming, and we have Bob Berg's name. It's not going to have Bob Berg's name because it's a special room. So that's kind of the challenges that I think, would you agree, we'd have to work on and figure out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did that for the Women's Summit, where I actually placed the whole schedule for the 24 hours, who's speaking who. And that's, the heart of running a one title banner, because then where do you place that, right? Like people just in and out, but that's definitely that needs to get done. And that's the reason why I invite everyone to join the Facebook group, because we place the scheduling there for the day. So that way we all in the same place. And if someone asks a question and no one can answer that question at the moment, then you can ask that question there, and we have like 800 people that can answer the question. So because everyone, we all have our own daily lives, we run companies, and we're not on Clubhouse all the time. Maybe the expertise of a patent lawyer is not there, but he can respond to your questions in the group, and that's the beauty of the Facebook group.
Yeah, so we see, I mean, like what Kate's saying, we've been trying to figure that out now too, because we want to get more interaction for people that maybe aren't even on Clubhouse. Maybe they're on other social media platforms and maybe they want to hear it so they can get in, right? Because not everybody is on the app. So we are looking at that. Also, how do you reach everybody? How do you let them know, like to your point of when people are coming on? So we're doing different things now to figure out the best way to get that word out. Because people do ask, hey, I would love to watch a recording of this or get the transcripts. People ask, I want the notes. So we're working on getting, excuse me, all that stuff formulated. But it's a great point, Dr. Finance.
Thanks, Kate and Dan. Okay, we're going to move to the last part of the segment here. I have 7 quick questions for you guys. If you can answer them around 1 minute or less. This is getting off the Clubhouse now, and we're moving into the realm of finance. What are your favorite financial books? No more than 3.
For myself, I do like Profit First and then Dr. Finance book, which I need to get.
Yes, I will send you. You guys got a free copy. Don't worry, you don't have to pay. Just we'll DM each other afterwards and send me your address, and I'll for you guys, definitely.
Yeah, the 3 Dr. Finance books. So and then obviously Rich Dad Poor Dad was great too.
Okay, and any other ones like Tim Ferriss or any of those guys? I know a lot of people like to say 4-hour work week, but
It's one of those we have not read.
yeah, I haven't read either.
I have it, but I have not read.
Yeah.
This is what the masses say. I just go by. When I was a professor, they always would say Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman. They were kind of their top books. All right, thank you. We're going to move on, and let's see. Do we need money to survive?
Yes, absolutely.
Of course.
All right, that was easy. Is finance necessary for everyone? Why or why not?
Finance should be the part of the language of their business. And most people would say that's the last thing that they would pay attention. But, your finance should be good, and that could break, or that could really ruin your company if you're not paying attention to it. You should take a look at it daily, at least.
Great answer. Thanks, Kate. Dan, is finance necessary for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the thing that we overlook. Financial literacy or fluency is the last thing we think about in business.
Thank you, Dan. I told you these would move fast. We only got 5 left here. These are standard questions. Actually, four left. How important is having a purpose in business, and what would be your purpose? So that's actually 2 questions. How important is having a purpose in business, and what is your purpose?
All right. So it's so important for you to have your purpose or your why. And that is the reason why you have that in place, is when things get wobbly, then you go back to that key purpose of your company, of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is your guidelines of how people making decisions for your company. And you need to have it in order to have a solid goal for where you guys are heading.
And what would you say would be your purpose, Kate?
I have a different purpose of different company. For the hotel brand Bintana sa Paraiso, my purpose is to employ as many Filipinos as I can. And that is a great give back to my community. If they can put their kids to school because of working for me, that would make me so much happier.
Awesome. Dan?
Yeah, no, I love that. Serving the underserved. It's it's something that I've really become passionate about now. Also, we set out a few years ago to help 10,000 people in the Philippines find higher paying jobs and to be able to make money to support, because usually it's one person that supports the whole household, including past generational family members. So it's something that I'm really set out on.
Helping the Filipino community to remove poverty from the Filipino community. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Get people get them into digital jobs, get them as entrepreneurs, business owners, freelancers, things that pay them, 5 to 10 times more than what they would make. Mm-hmm. So they can support, their families.
And and going back to the first question, so how important is having a purpose in business? Dan?
One of the most important things, probably like the most important thing.
Okay. Thank you, guys. 2 more questions and we'll wrap it up. Last one, second to last. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
Dan, can you do that first?
Yeah. So you said, what's something that we want to accomplish in the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think like Kate said, we want to IPO a company in the Philippines. So our brand out there, get it to the status of being IPO or being an international brand that was started by a Filipina.
Okay, Kate.
Yeah, that's actually very good. Yeah, that's what we talk about. But I think most importantly is being happy and have alignment in life. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, you can make the money in the world, but are you really happy and aligning with yourself, your family, and community? I think that's way more bigger than money.
Absolutely. Great responses. The last question, folks, and I know you guys been here for a while, but Kate and Dan, usually I've had some people break the hour mark, but since you guys like to break records, you're going to be my longest podcast. So thank you for being patient. And also this is 3 people here, so I never had it this long before. Maybe that's the reason. So the last question is very important. What would you like to be your legacy in this world? What do you want to leave as your legacy?
I think for me is having for people to remember me that things, whatever you wanted to do in life can be done. And I grew up in a small island, like I shared earlier. And even if you have so many setbacks and you think that you can't make it happen, things can be done. You can show up to the world and be the best of whatever is that you're trying to show for yourself.
That's great. Thank you, Kate. Dan?
Yeah,
What do you want to leave as your
great.
legacy?
I mean, just having a positive impact on people. I mean, if that was even just making them smile, I'd be happy. So, if at my funeral people are happy, knowing and can share stories about how I positively impacted them, I'd be happy.
I think we all share the same legacy. That's great. Well, thank you, Kate and Dan. I appreciate you guys coming here. Any last minute thoughts? You want to plug anything? You want to advertise? I don't care. The floor is yours. Last minute, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
You have any books or anything you want to show?
no, I don't have any books, but you can go to katehancock.com. You can find out what we're going next. And we're doing a lot of meetup here and there. And actually this weekend we'll be in Vegas with 33 people coming up. So we will be doing throughout the year. So go to katehancock.com to get more details.
Awesome. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, we have a media company, ibhmedia.co.co, and we, our main goal is to get people featured in different publications, tell your story. But I love what Kate said, and just so happy that we're even here. Thank you so much, Dr. Finance.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys again. Pleasure having you guys here, Kate and Dan. So, folks, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching. And listening. Those in the podcast, audio only. So this is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast with Kate Hancock and Daniel Robbins. They own the most successful entrepreneur club in Clubhouse, a new app, as well as also they are successful entrepreneurs in real life. So I want to thank them again for coming out. Don't forget to follow or subscribe and like and all that good stuff. And also, if you have any more, if you're curious about anything about Dr. Finance products or services, go to drfinance.info. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kate. See you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Thank you.